I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. Jessica and I had a pretty good run. Almost 10 years of marriage, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs. I thought we had a solid, predictable life. She's always been a little bitchy about everything, but I figured that was just her personality. She's the kind of woman who can be charming one second and downright nasty the next, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Lately, though, she'd been acting weird. Not just the usual get home late from work or forget to say goodnight, but little things. Phone always hidden, quick glances when I entered a room, a weird nervousness I couldn't quite put my finger on. She started canceling plans, saying she was busy or tired, and I noticed she was more secretive about her phone than ever before. I didn't want to be paranoid, but I could feel it, something was off. It all started to come to a head about 2 weeks ago. I had a rare day off, and I told Jessica I was planning to cook a nice dinner. She's not much of a cook, but she pretends she's interested. So I blocked out the whole afternoon, bought some special ingredients, truffle oil, rare spices, the works. I wanted to surprise her, make a romantic night out of it. I even signed up for a private cooking lesson with a famous chef I follow online. Thought it'd be fun, and maybe we'd reconnect after months of her ignoring me. The day finally arrived. I got home with my groceries, feeling pretty good about the night. I was humming in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, when I noticed the security system's app pinged. It was unusual, but I shrugged it off. I didn't think much of it until I looked closer. The camera footage had a strange clip. It wasn't me or Jessica, but an unfamiliar man in our kitchen. Tall, good-looking, and wearing what looked like chef's clothes. My stomach sank. The timestamp was right in the middle of the afternoon, exactly when I was supposed to be busy with my cooking class. I hit replay. There she was, Jessica, acting all innocent, pretending she was getting the ingredients ready, all fake smiles and giggles. But the footage told a different story. She was leaning into this guy, whispering, giggling, touching his arm. And then what hit me like a punch to the gut, she was actually kissing him, right there in our kitchen. My own wife cheating on me with some famous chef she'd been obsessed with for months. I couldn't believe it. My hands started trembling as I watched her lay her hands on his chest, her face so close to his, like she was trying to hide it but couldn't. I froze. I replayed the clip again, trying to convince myself I was wrong. But deep down, I knew. I'd caught her. I'd caught Jessica red-handed. The woman I loved, the one I thought was my partner, was screwing around behind my back with the guy she's always drooling over on Instagram and in her stupid foodie groups. And she had the nerve to pretend everything was fine, even as I was watching her betray me in our own home. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? And right in the middle of my day, our home, the place I thought was safe. It's like she was mocking me, thinking I'd never find out. But I had the footage, I had the proof. And now everything was different. After I watched that clip for probably the 10th time, I couldn't breathe right. My mind was racing. Anger, betrayal, confusion, everything hit me all at once. Jessica had always been a little bitchy, sure, but I never thought she'd do something like this. Not with some chef, some guy she's been drooling over for months. I mean, she's always been a bit of a manipulator, lying about where she's going, pretending she's busy when she's actually out with her friends or, worse, with him. I thought I knew her, but now I was questioning everything. The worst part was how calm I was on the outside. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut, but also like I was somehow detached from everything. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't bring myself to yell or cry or do anything. I just kept replaying the video over and over. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, that maybe there was some innocent explanation, but deep inside I knew. There was no way this was innocent. I finally got up, my hands trembling. I looked around our house, our home, and realized I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to face her, not yet. Instead, I grabbed my phone, took a screenshot of the footage, and saved it in a separate folder so she wouldn't find it. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, trying to process what I was feeling. Mostly, I was just numb. I'd never felt this kind of betrayal before. It's one thing when a woman cheats, at least it's common enough to expect some heartbreak. But the way she was doing it, so blatant, so calculated, it cut deeper. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't just sit on this and pretend everything was fine, but I also knew I needed to plan my next move carefully. I was furious, yes, but I also wanted to understand what this meant for us, for my family. Did she love this guy? Was she planning to leave me? Was this just some fling? The questions kept circling my head, and I hated that I was feeling so helpless. I never imagined I'd be in this situation, especially not with Jessica. She was supposed to be my wife, my partner. That night I finally decided I'd confront her, but I wasn't going to do it immediately. No, I wanted to catch her off guard, get some answers, see how deep her lies went. I spent the rest of the evening pretending everything was normal, trying to act like I didn't know what I'd seen, but inside I was boiling. I kept replaying that footage, imagining her lying, twisting stories, trying to cover her ass. Whatever she said, I knew this wasn't just a mistake. It was a full-blown affair, and I was determined to find out everything. The thing is, I'd always been a pretty trusting guy, maybe too trusting. I never thought my wife would cheat on me, especially not with a guy like that. She's always been the type to make excuses, spin stories, lie through her teeth if she had to. I could see her doing that now, pretending she's innocent, claiming she was just talking, confused, or misunderstood. But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. This was different. This was her screwing around with a guy she's obsessed with, right in our house, while I was upstairs thinking she was planning surprise dinner. I kept asking myself, how did I miss the signs? How did I not see it coming? The truth is I was blind, maybe out of love, maybe because I didn't want to believe it, but now I had the proof. And that changed everything. I was angry, yes, but mostly I felt like a fool. I trusted her. I loved her. And she threw it all away for some stupid, superficial fling with a guy who probably doesn't even care about her like I did. Tomorrow I knew I'd have to face her. I'd have to confront her and hear what she had to say. But honestly, I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming. I just knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what I saw. This betrayal was going to change everything, and I wasn't sure I was strong enough to handle it. But I also knew I couldn't keep living in this lie, not anymore. The night was brutal. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I saw in that footage. Her smile, the way she touched him, the way she whispered into his ear like she was in some secret world with him. I kept thinking about how she lied to my face for months, making me believe everything was fine while she was sneaking around behind my back. I felt sick just thinking about how much I'd trusted her, how I'd been blindsided by her bitchy, manipulative ways. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay, not when I had the evidence right in front of me. I decided I'd confront her when she got home from whatever she was doing. I didn't want to wait any longer. She had to see that I knew. I wanted to see her face when I laid it all out. I'd gather my strength, hold my ground, and get the truth from her, no matter how ugly it was going to be. As the day dragged on, I started feeling a different kind of anger, cold, calculated. I knew she'd try to lie her way out of it, as she always did. Jessica's the type who can spin stories like no one else. She's got a way of making you doubt yourself, making you feel like you're overreacting or crazy. But I wasn't about to let her do that this time. I had the proof. I had everything I needed. When the clock finally hit late afternoon, I was already packing the living room. I kept glancing at the door, waiting for her to come home. My stomach was a knot, my fists clenched tight. I was ready for the showdown, even if part of me was terrified of how she'd react. Jessica has a nasty temper when she's cornered, and I knew she'd go for the jugular. She's good at twisting words, making herself look innocent, even when she's guilty as hell. Finally, the front door opened. She sauntered in, looking slightly tired but still that cocky, bitchy smirk on her face. My blood boiled instantly. I stepped right into her path, holding my phone with the screenshot of her kissing that chef. I didn't even bother with small talk. "You want to tell me what the hell is going on here?" I said, voice steady but shaking with suppressed rage. I held up the phone, showing her the video. Her eyes widened for a second, then she immediately started her bullshit. "Oh, come on, that's not what it looks like. Save it," I cut her off. "I know exactly what you've been doing. I saw the footage. You've been screwing around with that chef, what's his name, Marco. Yeah, Marco. You've been sneaking around, lying to my face, pretending you're working late when you're out with him. How long has this been going on? Months." Her face contorted into that familiar look, defensive, bitchy, furious. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just overreacting as usual. That's just bullshit and you're crazy if you think. I'm not crazy, I snapped. I've got the proof right here. You think I'm stupid. I saw you kissing him, Jessica, right in our own house. How much more obvious do you want it to be? Do you even care about this marriage, about me? Her eyes flickered with anger, then she pasted on a fake, innocent look. You're twisting things. You always do this, blow everything out of proportion. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know, trying to figure things out. You never pay attention anymore, and I was lonely, okay? I didn't mean for it to happen, and I certainly didn't mean to hurt you. That was her usual lie, her go-to excuse. Blame it on me, say she was lonely, say she didn't mean it, that she's some innocent victim here, but I saw through it. I saw her desperation to cover her ass, the way her eyes darted away when I pressed her. She lied just like I knew she would. I felt a mix of nausea and rage. How could she be so callous, so manipulative? I'd loved her for years, cared for her, built a life with her, and now I found out it was all a lie. I stared at her, trying to hold back the tears, the anger, the betrayal. My voice cracked slightly when I finally said, "You're a fucking liar, Jessica, and I don't know what to do with this right now, but one thing for sure, you're done, we're done." She looked stunned for a second, then her bitchy streak surfaced again. "You're overreacting. I swear, you're just jealous because I'm better at life than you. You're pathetic, you know that. Just a jealous little man who can't handle a real woman. You think you're so smart, so high and mighty, but you're nothing." Nothing? That was it. I knew that pushing her further wouldn't help. I turned, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. I needed to get out, get some air, clear my head. But the worst part was the ache in my chest, knowing that everything I believed in was shattered. I'd trusted her. I'd loved her. And she'd thrown it all away for some cheap thrill with Marco, that asshole she's been drooling over. I never thought I'd see the day when my wife would cheat on me, especially so blatantly. But there it was, clear as day. And no matter what she said now, I knew I'd never be able to look at her the same way again. I left the house that evening feeling numb but somehow lighter, like I'd finally taken the first step toward understanding how deep her betrayal really went. I drove around aimlessly for a while, trying to process everything. The pain, the anger, the disappointment. It was all swirling inside me, making my head spin. I kept thinking about the years we'd shared, how she used to be the woman I loved, how she turned into this manipulative, cheating bitch who thought she could get away with everything. I knew I couldn't just confront her and expect things to be okay. That wasn't an option anymore. I had to think about what I wanted, what I deserved. I also knew I had to figure out the next move carefully. Jessica was a master at spinning stories, at lying her way out of trouble. I had evidence now, but I wasn't naive enough to think she'd admit everything right away. She'd deny until she thought she could get away with it. So I spent that night planning. I thought about how I'd approach her again, what I'd say, how I'd catch her in her lies if she tried to spin her way out. I started drafting a plan, knowing that I'd need to be calm but firm when I confronted her again. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I had to set boundaries, even if it meant losing her forever. The next day, I woke up with a heavy heart. My mind was still racing, but I knew I had to face this head-on. I decided I'd go back home, act like I was still in the dark, and see what she'd say. When I pressed her harder, I wanted her to think I hadn't seen everything, to let her dig her own grave with her lies. When I got home, Jessica was already there, pretending to be normal. She was on the phone, her fake smile plastered on her face. As soon as I walked in, I could tell she was trying to act innocent, like I wasn't about to drop a bombshell. I played it cool, pretending I didn't know anything. I asked her how her day was, made small talk, all the while watching her carefully. She was nervous, her eyes kept darting away, her hands trembling slightly. I knew she was trying to stay composed, but she was cracking under the pressure. I decided to push her a little. "Hey Jess," I said casually, "remember how I said I signed up for that cooking class with Marco?" Her face twitched. She knew I had the footage. I could see her trying to come up with a lie, trying to pretend it was all innocent, but I wasn't buying it. So I said, crossing my arms, "You're still lying about that, huh? I saw the footage. You and Marco kissing, touching, all that bullshit. Tell me, Jessica, how long has this been going on?" Her eyes flickered with panic. She tried to brush me off, laughing nervously. Look, I don't know what you think you saw, but I swear. Don't lie to me. I cut her off again. I got the proof right here. That footage proves everything, so why don't we just be honest? How many times did you see him? Were you planning to leave me for him? She looked furious now, her bitchy facade cracking. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. I was just talking to him. I don't know what you're imagining. You're lying, I interrupted. You've been lying from the start. I saw you kissing him, right in our house. That's not just talking. You're fucking him, Jess, and you've been doing it for months. How many other times did you cheat? She snapped, her voice rising. You're such a jealous, insecure bastard. Do you honestly think I'd cheat on you if I didn't want to? Maybe you're just not enough for me anymore. Maybe I've outgrown this marriage. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. I told her I was done listening to her lies, that I was sick of her manipulations and bullshit. I told her she had played her hand, and now I was done pretending I didn't know. I said I'd be leaving for a while, but I'd be back to figure out what it all meant. Part of me wanted to scream, call her every name in the book, but I knew I had to stay composed. Inside, I was a storm. Outside, I kept my face cold and detached. I knew this was the start of something much worse. The woman I married, the woman I loved, was gone, replaced by someone else entirely. That whole day, I stayed quiet, packed a bag, and left. I didn't want to go home, not yet. I needed space, clarity, time to think about what I was going to do. I knew that whatever I decided, it would change my life forever. But I also knew I'd never be able to trust her again, not after what I saw. Whatever happens next, I'd finally get some answers, and maybe, just maybe, start to heal from this betrayal. The first night away from her was surreal. I stayed at my brother's place trying to process everything. I kept thinking about the footage, her lies, her bitchy smirk when she was caught. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. How could she be so callous? How could she betray me like that, right in our own home, while I was obliviously preparing a romantic dinner? It felt like a punch to the gut every time I replayed the images. I had loved her so much, trusted her so blindly, and now I was left with this gnawing emptiness. That night's sleep was impossible. I kept waking up, visions of her kissing Marco flashing in my mind. I felt like I was going crazy. The worst part, I knew I had to decide whether to fight for this marriage or just cut my losses. Part of me still clung to hope. What if she was just a mistake? But deep down, I knew better. She'd lied so many times, manipulated the situation, but that footage was real, undeniable. She had chosen him over me just like that. And I couldn't ignore the fact that she showed her true colors. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of clarity and rage. I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to decide what to do next, whether to fight for her, to forgive her, or to walk away. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone, thinking about what I'd say when I called her. I didn't want to sound desperate, but I also knew I needed answers. I wanted her to explain herself, to tell me what the hell she thought she was doing. I finally called her. Her voice sounded a little too cheerful, like she was trying to act normal to hide her guilt. I didn't waste time on small talk. I told her I was coming back home and we needed to have a serious talk. Her silence was deafening. When I arrived, she was waiting in the living room, her arms crossed, looking defensive as hell. I confronted her again. Jessica, I said, I saw the footage. I know what you did. I want to hear you say it. Tell me the truth. How long have you been screwing around with Marco? Were you planning to leave me for him? She rolled her eyes, scoffing. Oh, please, you're overreacting. This isn't all that serious. I wasn't planning to leave. Don't lie, I cut her off. I know you're lying. I saw you kissing him in our house. How many times? How long has this been going on? Her bitchy side flared up in full force. You don't know what you're talking about. I was just having a bit of fun. Maybe you're the one who's boring. Maybe I needed someone who actually makes me feel alive. I felt my blood boil. You think this is just fun? You think I'm stupid? I loved you. I thought we had something real. But you've been cheating behind my back, lying, manipulating, pretending everything was fine while you were screwing around with that guy. Her face twisted with anger. You're pathetic. You're so insecure, so jealous. Maybe if you paid attention, I wouldn't have had to find someone else to fill the void. That was the final straw. I told her to get out. Told her I didn't want to see her anymore. That I was done being humiliated by her lies. I saw her eyes flash with anger. Then she spat out some snarky comment about how I'd ruined everything, how I was too stupid to see what she was really like. But I didn't care. All I cared about was walking away from the woman who had shattered my trust and my heart. I packed a bag and left again, this time for good. I didn't want to be near her, didn't want to be around the mess she'd made. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in a long while, I was free from her manipulations, free from her bitchy, lying ways. I knew I'd be okay eventually, but it was going to take time to heal. That night I sat alone in my apartment, thinking about everything I'd been through. The betrayal, the lies, the pain. I realized how much I'd let her manipulate me over the years, how I'd ignored the signs because I wanted to believe in us. Now I saw the truth clearly. She never loved me the way I loved her. She only cared about her own needs, her own superficial thrills. From this point on, I knew I'd have to rebuild my life piece by piece. Maybe I'd find someone who actually deserved my trust, someone who wouldn't play games or lie to my face. Maybe I'd be stronger without her. But one thing was certain, I wasn't going to let her destroy me, not without a fight. I'd learn from this and I'd come out of it better. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. Weeks went by, and I finally started to feel some semblance of clarity. The initial shock and anger gradually mellowed into a deep, painful understanding. Jessica was gone, her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude, everything that once made me question my own judgment. I realized I'd been so blinded by love that I ignored the warning signs, the subtle hints that she wasn't the woman I thought she was. Now I see clearly. She was never really in this marriage for the right reasons. She was just using me as a convenience, a backup plan until something better came along. Living alone was tough at first. The house felt empty, silent in a way I'd never experienced before. No more fake smiles, no more sneaky glances, no more pretending everything was fine. It was just me and my thoughts, and honestly, it was the first time I'd truly been honest with myself about what I deserved. I realized that I'd wasted years on someone who didn't appreciate me, who was willing to cheat and lie just to chase some fleeting thrill with a guy who probably saw her as just another conquest. I took a step back and started focusing on myself. I went back to my hobbies, working out, cooking for myself, reconnecting with old friends. I didn't want to be that guy who gets torn apart by betrayal. I wanted to rebuild, to learn how to trust again, but more importantly, how to trust myself. I kept the footage as a reminder, proof that I wasn't crazy, proof that I'd been betrayed by someone I loved. It was a hard lesson, but a necessary one. One day, I realized I was actually starting to feel better. The pain wasn't as raw. I was beginning to forgive myself for letting her manipulate me for so long. I'd been stupid, yes, but I'd also been loving, hoping she'd change. Now I knew better, I knew my worth. No more excuses, no more lies looking back. I see that this entire ordeal has changed me. It's taught me not to ignore the red flags, not to dismiss my gut feelings, and to stand up for myself when someone crosses boundaries. I won't lie. There's still a part of me that aches for what could have been, for the love I thought we shared. But I also know that sometimes, love isn't enough. People reveal who they truly are in moments of weakness, and Jessica's betrayal was her true self. The bitchy, manipulative, selfish woman she always was deep down. I won't pretend I've moved on completely. Trust is hard to rebuild after such a betrayal. But I am moving forward. I'm learning to be cautious, to value myself more, and to accept that sometimes walking away is the best thing you can do for your own peace and sanity. I've realized that revenge isn't about hurting her back. It's about taking control of my life again, reclaiming my happiness and dignity. This experience has been brutal, but it's also made me stronger. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar learns that it's okay to feel broken at first. It's okay to be angry, to want answers, to want revenge. But in the end, what matters most is that you find your way back to yourself. Because, in the end, that's the only person you truly need to trust.